Have you ever had a moment where your entire life changed in the span of 60 seconds? A moment where everything you thought you knew about your past, your purpose, and your future suddenly snapped into focus? That's exactly what happened to Dr. Amanda Walsh on what should have been just another ordinary Tuesday night in the ER. Amanda had been working the night shift at Boston General for 7 years. It was predictable, exhausting work, and she was so good at the routine she could practically do it on autopilot. But life has a funny way of shaking things up right when you get comfortable. That night, the chaos was familiar. A concussion in room 3, pneumonia in room 7, and a waiting room full of misery. By midnight, Amanda was in her element, running on fumes and caffeine, but proud of the difference she was making. She was in control. Or so she thought. Then, at 12:37 a.m., a call came in. Level 1 trauma. A woman in her 60s found collapsed at home, unresponsive, deteriorating fast. This is what Amanda was trained for. Adrenaline surged as she and her team stood ready at the ambulance bay doors. When those doors flew open and the paramedics rushed in, Amanda's world stopped. The woman on the gurney. She knew her, not from the hospital, not from the neighborhood, but from a memory buried deep in her past. This was Linda Morrison. 32 years ago, Linda was the social worker who had taken a terrified 5-year-old Amanda from her birth mother. The woman who had held her hand and promised her she was going to a safe place. Amanda had never forgotten her kind eyes or soft voice. And now, 3 decades later, Linda was dying right in front of her. For a split second, Amanda was frozen. Memories flooded back, being removed from an unsafe home. The gentle social worker, her loving adoptive family, who made her dream of becoming a doctor a reality. A lifetime of gratitude and grief washed over her, but she had no time for memories. Linda's blood pressure was crashing, her heart was failing. The woman who had saved her life as a child was now fighting for her own, and Amanda was the only one who could save her. What happens when your past and present collide in a matter of life and death? We're about to find out. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the rest of this incredible story. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Amanda pushed every emotion down deep and let her training take over. She barked orders to her team, started an IV line, ordered an immediate CT scan, and personally bagged Linda to help her breathe when her oxygen levels dropped to a dangerous level. The next 2 hours were a blur of controlled chaos. Linda had suffered a massive stroke, the kind that kills most people before they even make it to the hospital. Her brain was bleeding, her body was shutting down, and the odds of survival were less than 5%, even with aggressive intervention. But Amanda refused to accept those odds. She called in the best neurosurgeon in the hospital, coordinated with radiology for emergency imaging, and stayed by Linda's side through every procedure, every crisis, every moment when it looked like they were going to lose her. At 3:15 in the morning, after emergency surgery to relieve the pressure on Linda's brain, her vitals finally stabilized. She wasn't out of the woods, not by a long shot, but she was alive, and that was more than anyone had expected. Amanda sat down for the first time in hours, her scrubs covered in blood, her hands shaking from adrenaline, and she allowed herself to cry. Not because of the stress or the exhaustion, but because of the sheer impossible coincidence of what had just happened. The woman who'd changed the entire trajectory of Amanda's life had been brought to her, of all people, in her moment of greatest need. 2 days later, when Linda finally regained consciousness, Amanda was there. Linda's speech was slurred and her memory was fuzzy. But when Amanda gently took her hand and said, "Hi, Linda, I'm Dr. Walsh. I've been taking care of you," something flickered in Linda's eyes. Amanda took a deep breath and added, "But you knew me a long time ago as Amanda Chen. You were the social worker who helped me when I was 5 years old." Linda's eyes filled with tears, and she squeezed Amanda's hand with what little strength she had. through slurred words, she managed to say, "I remember you. I wondered about you. So many kids, but I always remembered you." Over the next few weeks, as Linda slowly recovered, Amanda learned the rest of the story. Linda had worked in child protective services for 40 years and had helped hundreds of children, but Amanda's case had stayed with her because she'd followed up years later and learned that Amanda had been adopted by a wonderful family. Linda had even kept a newspaper clipping from when Amanda graduated medical school, a tiny article in the local paper that mentioned her name. She'd never reached out because she didn't want to intrude, but she'd always hoped Amanda had found happiness. And now, through what could only be described as a miracle, they'd found each other again. Amanda told Linda about her life, about her adoptive parents, who'd loved her unconditionally, about her decision to become a doctor because she wanted to help people the way she'd been helped, and about how that terrible day when she was 5 had ultimately led her to a life she loved. Linda cried and told Amanda that she'd spent 40 years wondering if she'd made the right calls, if the children she'd removed from difficult situations had ended up okay, if she'd done more harm than good. And now she had her answer, at least for one child. Amanda had not just survived, she'd thrived, and she'd been in exactly the right place at exactly the right time to return the favor. Linda made a full recovery, defying every statistic and medical prediction. She and Amanda stayed in touch, building a friendship that bridged past and present, trauma and healing. Amanda realized that her routine night shift hadn't just been routine at all. It had been destiny, fate, the universe's way of closing a circle that had been open for 32 years. She'd saved the woman who'd saved her, and in doing so, she'd found a piece of her own story that she didn't even know was missing. So if this story gave you chills, if it made you believe that maybe there's a bigger plan we can't always see, then hit that like button, because these stories need to be shared. Subscribe to this channel because I'm dedicated to bringing you real stories about real people that will restore your faith in humanity and remind you that we're all connected in ways we can't imagine. Drop a comment and tell me about a time when someone from your past showed up unexpectedly, or about a moment when you realized that everything happens for a reason. Share your story because your experience matters, and it might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Remember that the routine moments, the ordinary shifts, the predictable days, they can transform into miracles in the blink of an eye. Stay ready, stay present, and never underestimate the power of one person to change another person's entire life.